Greetings, Earthlings. Oz here from planetOZ, and happy Halloween-ish, or happy Gundinsdagen, as we say on planetOZ. It's basically the same holiday. We didn't steal it from you, though. You stole it from us. Started calling it Halloween. So anyway, you're welcome. Hope this finds you all well. Despite the costuming effects, I think still going to go ahead and talk about something a little bit serious here. At least I think so. And what I am interested in talking about today is the question of whether or not we have been wrong about PTSD. And of course, it needs to be framed in the proper context of saying that I am not a doctor. I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist. I don't know. I'm asking questions here. I'm asking questions that come from an esoteric angle. Questions informed by a lot of esoteric ideas. So when I present this question about PTSD, it's not coming from a medically informed place. It is an integration of esoteric ideas as viewed through the lens of planetOZ. So, as with all things, it's presented before your wisdom to be made with what you wish. But I've on my channel and other films, I've asked questions about how we perceive SIDS and how we perceive dementia and other things too. It's not meant to upset anybody or stir up any controversy or anything like that. These are just questions introduced from the esoteric space that really cause us to puzzle. So what is the question? What is it about PTSD? What might we be wrong about regarding PTSD? And I'll just, for the purposes of this conversation, I'm just going to use a traditional concept of PTSD that we best know as the soldiers returning from war. So a soldier returning from a battlefield, having experienced the front lines of fighting in war. Wow, I don't know what's going on here, but whew, they're lighting it up down here. Okay, and anyway, so so the traditional viewpoint on this is that somebody comes back from a battle situation, and we're told that this is a very difficult thing to diagnose or fully explain or really get a handle on, because it seems to manifest somewhat uniquely in every individual who experiences something like that. I'm not one of them, but if one has experienced such a thing, and there are people who have these experiences. They fight in wars. They could be on the battlefront for months and seemingly come back home without much issue. And it sounds kind of puzzling, but it's just the mindset or just that unique individual person's response to the situation is to compartmentalize it or deal with it in some way that, hopefully they're not repressing things, but I'm talking about like a situation where you could actually see into somebody's mind and heart, and you can see that they're not repressing it, or they're not lying to themselves or denying or avoiding anything. It just kind of rolled off them, where the experience doesn't roll off of others. And so when someone comes back from a war situation, really any kind of, you could just substitute my war metaphor or analogy with any kind of intensely traumatic experience that results in PTSD. But the person comes back from war, and they are considered by our medical system as, to be having issues, psychological issues with stability, and we hear of such symptoms as disassociation from reality, the seeing of the hallucination type experiences, night terrors, a lot of stuff like that. So anyway, of course, absolutely possible that is completely and entirely the whole truth. I want to talk a little bit about this from the perspective of a source that I really like, the Law of One. And in the Law of One, it says that awakenings come about as a consequence of catalyst. And a lot of this catalyst is planned by ourselves. We plan it ourselves, for ourselves, while we are in this illusion. So before we come into this realm, when we know how the whole realm works, and we know how the game works and all that stuff, we plan out these things, we plan for this catalyst, and we expect to grow from it. That's the whole idea. So then we come here and we experience this catalyst. But catalyst, if it's really strong, can be traumatic. And that's not necessarily a bug. It could be a feature. Oftentimes it's a feature. It just depends on how much the soul hopes and intends to grow during the incarnation. Grow might not even be the right word. For all we know, there can be entertainment purposes behind. There can be all kinds of things. People come for all kinds of reasons. But when someone is setting up a catalyst for themselves, typically it's because they want to move their soul, their consciousness, from the place that it is to a place that they want to get it to, and they want to do it quickly. And so this illusion that we live in here, that we experience, the third density, this is an excellent realm with which to accomplish that. So as it's written in esoteric texts and implied in the Law of One, it's basically we're not wrong when we think of this realm as being kind of tough, and we wonder if is it always like this? Is it like this everywhere? Is this the natural order of things? Is just for trillions of years, if we live that long? Is this how it's going to be? And according to these sources, the answer to that is no. This is tough. They'll acknowledge that this is tough. So people come here, souls incarnate here to accomplish something, to challenge themselves, to grow, to catalyze, to galvanize. All of this stuff presumably is done in such a way that you start off in eternity, you make this plan for some kind of a tweak you want to make to your eternity, or your experience of eternity, and then you engage in a temporary illusion of sorts, a school, or any of the million analogies people make for this, some sort of school, training ground, proving ground, whatever people want to think of it. And it can be, if you set it up a certain way, it can be a school of hard knocks. But the idea is that at the end of the day, it's an illusion any way you slice it. It is an illusion to make beings who are infinite, immortal, invulnerable, luminous, and perfect. It's designed to allow those beings the opportunity to experience the illusion of being finite, mortal, vulnerable, material, and imperfect. And so all across the board, in any of the countless billions of ways one might want to make adjustments to who they are, not in avatar form, but as from a soul perspective, who they are. And they want to make some adjustments to that. And so all of these catalysts in this realm and this school of hard knocks are all designed to be this opportunity to come experience the illusion, hit yourself with that catalyst, experience it, grow with it, learn, all while under the illusion that you're mortal and you're vulnerable and all this stuff, only to ultimately arrive back when all is said and done from where you came. But the presumption is that when you get there, you find that you have grown yourself or unfolded yourself in a way that was really what you desired. And so presumably, hopefully, the adjustment that you made to yourself, the progress that you made, experience that you had was all worth it. And you are once again in your eternal place where you can experience your new self or your improved self, if you want to think of it that way, for all eternity, or until such a time as you desire to make some kind of other adjustment. And according to the law of one, you can make the adjustments there. You don't have to come here. You can do it there. But the thing is, doing it there while fully aware in the fullness of who you are, and it's going to be very slow, is I guess the long and short of it. Within the full knowledge of who you are, it's more difficult to try to enact some sort of catalyst and some sort of response to the catalyst as a mechanism for growth. That's tough when you are acutely aware of your infinite, immortal, and vulnerable, luminous, and perfect nature. It's a little bit tricky to challenge yourself. So you kind of need the illusion, and hence we have the illusion. And so the catalyst is a very important component. Catalyst rattles our cages. Catalyst shakes the foundation of our beliefs. Catalyst reduces us down to, whatever reduction we need to then be reborn, as if a caterpillar reducing itself down to a soup, only to emerge sometime later as a butterfly. That sort of catalytic process is something programmed for people, something that happens. And when someone provides themselves with catalyst, this is described as an effort to just to clarify, the reason that the point of experiencing incredibly negative things within an illusion is that the important thing is to transcend the experience by understanding the illusion for what it is, an illusion. It's not about tackling it within the third density self, like you're hit with this really difficult thing, and what do you do here on Earth while you're engaged with that thing? Are you going to rehabilitation? Are you exercising to get yourself fit? It has nothing to do with what you do in a third density sense to deal with the catalyst. That's really not exactly the idea. The idea is the question of how much catalyst does it take? How much negative experience, how many bad things are necessary, or challenging things at least anyway, are necessary for one to look at it and go, something is not right here. Is this really how it is? Is this really how we are to each other? Is this really how I am to myself? Am I like this to other people? What is this really what it is? And eventually, if it's the right amount of catalyst and it's the right time, we are to emerge with this idea of, no, actually this isn't how it is. No, this isn't me. No, this isn't what other people do. We aren't actually this bad. We aren't actually this sick. These things are not actually as wrong as I've always believed they were. Really, what this whole thing was, it was meant to just have me keep asking the question, is this what it is? Is this real? Is this true? Is it really like this? And that question will continue to hammer and hammer and hammer until that moment where we're able to say, wait a minute, no, it's not. This isn't. This is an illusion. And now I see it. So it is all done with a purpose. This is all intended with a purpose. And so the purpose of this film is about misunderstanding PTSD. So to bring this all back around, it just presents this question when you send many, many, many young minds off to a battlefield, which if you're, front and center and you're on the front lines and you're fighting and you're waking up every day, not sure if you're going to make it through the day, if you are constantly in a situation where you feel like you could die at any moment, what this is effectively amounting to is some of the most incredible, most intense catalyst that exists in this society. War, and the idea of dying at any moment. Made worse by the fact that your death, if someone were to kill you on the battlefield, would not be a crime. Might be thought of as such by the country that you live in, but the country of which that person is a resident does not see it as a crime. In fact, they're hired to do exactly that. That is their job if there is a war going on. So we have this kind of legally legitimized form of killing each other, and a legally legitimized, in a sense, form of doing this in mass, nation versus nation, with lots and lots of people experiencing incredible catalyst. And as a consequence of this, some people make the case that these wars are not always as true as they seem. That from behind the scenes, there's something of an impetus or an energy, a momentum or gravity placed on this realm in general that says, keep it hot, keep it intense, just endlessly war, just endlessly have wars going on, because it's sort of like a feature of this particular realm. And if we went to other third density planets, we would find them more peaceful. People are there doing their third density work, but just like trying to do it fully on the other side of this, when you have any level of reduction of the illusion, and you have any level of in which the people who live there are in touch with the true nature of who they are and their infiniteness and their immortality and all of that, when they're more in touch with that, they will be more peaceful. It will be a nicer environment, but it will also be slower. So that is the argument made for this tumultuous Earth being exactly as it is supposed to be. Somewhere, it is said, places in this universe, there is supposed to be realms for those who wish to accelerate their learning and experience quickly. And in order to do that, in a third density illusion, in the realm of catalyst, you would want a planet like this. And, I don't know, that's just an idea, theory floated around, but wow, it sure does seem like this planet that we live on is, as third density realms go, it's in kind of an ongoing, endless state of war. And so you take these young people and you send them off into the battlefield. They're on the battlefront, and basically what their experience is a legalized, legitimized form of basically the gnarliest catalyst that we can come up with as a humanity so far, in the form of just trying to kill each other en masse. So if you experience enough of that, you may be triggering the awakening process within yourself. And this is the stated goal of an environment of catalyst in the first place. The point is to see the illusion. The point is to awaken within the illusion. And then the point is to be able to do incredibly accelerated work on yourself from the standpoint of awake within the illusion, awake within the lucid dream. Even after waking, it's still much faster. It's said. This is all esoteric information, so we don't have, PhD endorsed scholars with peer-reviewed papers talking about all this esoteric stuff. We have to take from it what resonates with ourselves and leave the rest on the table. That's why planetOZ is full of theories and not really facts or conclusions or answers. They're going to be unique to each one of us anyway. So, in this case, this idea of being awakened by the catalyst of war, and in many writings and a lot of discussion about what awakening is and what catalyst is and what happens once we are awake, it's typically described that there's a dark night of the soul, and so consequently, during that dark night of the soul, theoretically, the person who is not in tune, not aware, not in touch with the spiritual aspect of who they are and all of the spiritual realms and everything that comes with it, they are in denial about all of that until triggered by catalyst to ask the questions, to see something within themselves, in which point they discover their spiritual nature. But this is not an instantaneous thing to integrate. This can be a very difficult thing to integrate, and therefore we have a lot of discussion, a lot of writing, a lot that's out there that is about the dark night of the soul. And dark night of the soul, this is a planetOZ interpretation, but it's basically that adjustment, going from the denial of any spirituality, any spiritual consequence for anything that you might have done or said, or ways that you've acted, or any negativity that you've put out there, even in your thoughts. This is all, none of this has consequence necessarily in a material sense. And then all of a sudden, with this awakening to this spiritual aspect, comes a lot of things, including a new lens with which to view everything you've done in your life up until that point. And some people are quite shocked, and it can be quite scary to see how you've lived your life and all this. So all of that, to integrate all of this together, becomes this dark night of the soul. And all the while, in the midst of this confusion and chaos, the veil is also starting to thin. So now this will manifest in a million different ways. It's unique to everybody, but it could be what we would consider to be auditory hallucinations, visual hallucinations. It can manifest in all of these ways that, in the traditional Western medical sense, simply looks like psychological problems. And they all have psychological labels, and they all have psychological medication that comes with it. So, of course, this film is not meant to recommend that anybody do anything other than they're doing with regards to, if you're treating something. But it's really more about asking the bigger question from like a 10,000 feet up and looking at society as a whole, and asking ourselves, if this is true, And we are not just physically, biologically evolving while we're here, but we are spiritually evolving here. And catalyst, awakening, and the dark night of the soul are all part of this very natural evolutionary concept. Then we might not be serving everybody in the best way. Everyone's suffering from this condition, particularly if such a person is amenable or interested in exploring these other possibilities or whatever. It should at least be there for them. It should be acknowledged. We should be able to say, this is actually what we believe that you are experiencing. It would be a big difference, because it would, if this were true, and if this is what is happening, even in some cases of PTSD, the person got the catalyst that they needed at a soul level. They woke to the spiritual aspect of who they are, and now the veil is thin, and they're seeing things beyond the veil. And by the way, what tends to present to people from beyond the veil, when I'm talking about something that in the Western medicine sense we would be talking about auditory or visual hallucinations as one example. Then on the other side of this, from a spiritual awakening standpoint, these auditory and visual hallucinations, seeing people who have died, for example, like spirit side, seeing anything that represents something from another realm, another dimension, the spiritual side of things. From that lens of viewing it, what is actually happening there is the veil is thinning. So the person has awakened, the veil is thinning, and now they're seeing stuff which strikes them as, well, I'm psychologically breaking down. I don't understand what I'm looking at. Why am I seeing these things? Why am I hearing these things? Again, the psychological answer may be the correct one, but if instead it's an aspect of waking due to catalyst of war, then thinning the veil, then seeing things, this is something that can really be compounded in a negative way if it's not understood, and someone particularly young and perhaps intensely traumatized over a short period of time in finding this particular part of it can be really bad, because what is actually going to manifest in those things that are seen on the other side of the veil is going to be a factor of what is internal to the person seeing it. In other words, if you have some sort of glorious waking experience where the veil is starting to thin, then you're going to see relatives that you have long missed and loved. You're going to see, it's just not to get cliche about it, but it's going to resonate to you like unicorns and rainbows and glorious stuff like that, because what you're seeing is reflecting the place that you are at. It's reflecting the frequency that you're tuned into. And so as a consequence of that frequency, and you're in a good place, and you're like, this is awesome, I'm waking, oh cool, I can, the veil is thinning. But for someone in this situation, it's very possible that while the veil is thinning, while the awakening and the dark night of the soul is going on, they are in a very bad place. They're in a dark place where they are trying to recover from trauma. They've seen stuff that they didn't want to see at any age, much less the young age that they've experienced all of this at. And so when you put this all together, it tends to be a cocktail that isn't very helpful, because the manifestations of the thinned veil aren't going to be beautiful, and they're not going to be warm. They're going to come from the place that the person is at. It's going to be images that are very negative, could be very scary, could be seemingly demonic, or could be could be flashes where they feel like they're returning to the worst of what they've experienced, or some distorted version of that. So, that's the big question. The big question for this film, and asking, are we not quite understanding PTSD? And I'll just end this film with one final emphasis on question. Don't know, but I think a valid question, at least, worth asking. Are we getting it right on PTSD? Is it a psychological condition only, and that is the only diagnosis? Or might there be something in the realm of spirituality and the realm of esoterics and this idea of spiritual awakening and dark night of the soul? Anyway, food for thought. Cheers, friends, from Planet Oz.